Point is, small and medium-sized business and startups are getting into action as well. All the announcements translate into real outcomes that matter to people's lives. They're proof that a strong, dynamic American economy is an engine of growth, economic growth, and innovation throughout the entire region. And they're testament to the fact that American investment and American ingenuity are in high demand all across the region.
Oh, look at me, I'm shaking in my little space boots.
Because when you do business with the United States and our companies, you know what you're getting. High standards, fair practices, protections for workers, world-class ideas and innovation, and a commitment to deal with the environment. Finally, it's a quality guarantee. Look, this is how we've been able to mobilize billions in investment, including major new announcements this morning through our Partnership for Global Infrastructure and Investment. We also work closely to deepen our bilateral economic cooperation with partners throughout the region, especially on the issues that will most impact our future economic success. For example, in September, when I traveled to Vietnam, as I mentioned earlier, to mark a historic new phase in our partnership of our countries, we committed to work together to strengthen the semiconductor supply chain. With India, Japan, Republic of Korea, and Singapore, we've launched new initiatives to shape the technologies and standards that will transform the future. We've deepened economic partnership with the Philippines, Indonesia, Australia, and others. We've renewed and elevated our engagement with critical regional bodies, including the ASEAN and Pacific Islands Forum. And when we offered to host APEC 2 years ago, we committed to modernizing this institution to make it easier for us to work together as we take on the challenges of a new era, and there are many challenges. We're going to see more changes in the next 10 years than we've seen in the last 50 years. That brings me back to the summit and where we go from here. The world is fundamentally different than it was 30 years ago at the first annual APEC leaders meeting at Blake Island in Washington State. The questions we must answer today are not about how much we trade, but about how we build resilience, lift up working people, reduce carbon emissions, and set up our economies to succeed over the long run. How to deliver growth from the bottom up and the middle out so no one gets left behind. And the idea behind this new Indo-Pacific Economic Framework, a partnership among 14 diverse and dynamic nations, all committed to tackling urgent issues like pandemic response, vulnerable supply chains, climate change, natural disasters, which we've learned can gravely impact our economies.
Good job.
Yeah.
Take pride in that.
We've announced the framework in May of 2022. And later today, we're launching an important new tool to promote sustainable economic growth and create a race to the top, not the bottom. There are tangible commitments negotiated in record time that are going to deliver meaningful outcomes to make supply chains more resilient, facilitate clean energy transition, and fight corruption. For example, our new supply chain agreement will allow us to better monitor for supply chain challenges before they become the kind of full-scale disruptions we saw during the COVID-19 pandemic, and ensure we're better prepared to shift and adapt when disruptions do occur, and they will. I know you all know better than I. Our work is not yet done.
Not only liar, but blasphemy!
Blasphemy.
This framework will be a platform for ongoing economic cooperation. And we will continue working to better facilitate high-standard trade that advances workers' rights with strong enforcement of labor standards. And at every step, we have upheld our commitment to unions. Each of the framework pillars includes strong pro-labor outcomes that will benefit workers of all economies. It's critical to building a stronger, fairer, more resilient economy for families across the Indo-Pacific. This week, my administration has launched our new global labor strategy to ensure that workers' rights are the centerpiece for economic strategy internationally as well as domestically. That's a primary concern to me. Last week in Illinois, I congratulated the UAW on their record contract with the big three U.S. auto companies. The contracts can lead to thousands of new jobs, billions of dollars in planned investment to keep American auto industry strong and competitive. And I urge any company investing in America to enter into partnerships with the most highly skilled, dedicated, and engaged workers anywhere in the world, American labor. And folks, I asked the Treasury Department to do a study. When labor does well, what does that do to people, all other non-labor folks around the country? Everyone benefits. And by the way, the reason many of you use labor is because they're the best workers in the world. Union. It's not like you show up one day and say, I want to be an electrician. You show up one day and say, you got 5 years to practice. And then you get a card. I'm also intent on responsibly managing the competition between the United States and the People's Republic of China. That's what we talked a little bit about yesterday, President Xi and I. That's what the world expects of us. And I promise you that's what we're doing. I met with Xi yesterday, leader to leader, to make sure there's no miscommunication between us. As always, and I've met with him more than any other world leader because when I was vice president, it was concluded that I should get to know him. It wasn't inappropriate for the President of the United States to be meeting with the Vice President. We've had, prior to this, 68 hours of private meetings, just he and I, each with a simultaneous interpreter. Our discussions have always been candid and constructive. I again emphasize to President Xi that the United States does not seek conflict. And yesterday we announced resumption of military-to-military communication channels to reduce the risk of accidental miscalculation. And it exists. This is not, as my generation would say back in the day, this is not all kumbaya, but it's straightforward. It's straightforward. We have real differences with Beijing when it comes to maintaining fair and level economic playing field and protecting your intellectual property. We're going to continue to address them with smart policies and strong diplomacy. We've also taken targeted action to protect our vital national security interest. Let me be clear. We are de-risking and diversifying our economic relationship with the PRC, not decoupling. Not decoupling. We'll be firm, standing up for our values and our interests. And I was very straightforward, as he was with me yesterday. At the same time, on critical global issues such as climate, AI, counter-narcotics, where it makes sense to work together, we've committed to work together. We're going to continue our commitment to diplomacy.
Oh my.
To avoid surprises and prevent misunderstandings. A stable relationship between the world's two largest economies is not merely good for the two economies, but for the world. A stable relationship. It's good for everyone. Let me close with this. The leader's statement from that first Blake Island summit 30 years ago captured a shared commitment to, quote, deepening the spirit of community, end of quote, among our economies. For all that has changed over the past 3 decades, we have to continue to summon the spirit of community to meet the challenges of today and to seize the enormous possibilities that exist.
Wow, that was good TV.